We're going to start in 1 minute. Okay, we're going to get started here in just a minute. We're going to do this a little bit different because we have what will be probably a lengthy transit trust meeting, and typically we do those before the council meeting. But we have a group of young people here waiting to see the Citizen of the Month, which is Santa Claus. And we also have a group of students here in support of Homeless Awareness Month. So what we're gonna do is convene our city council meeting, do our prayer and our pledge. Where's the preacher?
Right there. Over there to your left.
Okay, all right, there he is. And then we're gonna do our proclamations. Then we're gonna continue our council meeting till we're done with the other two meetings, okay? So at this time, I will call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please stand for the invocation by Pastor John Hiller of the Centenary United Methodist Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Let us pray. Almighty God, we give you thanks for this day. We thank you for this home that you have given to us, not only this city, but this earth, where you give us all that we need to sustain life. Look graciously, O Lord, upon this land. Where it is in pride, subdue it. Where it is in need, supply it. Where it is in error, rectify it. Where it is in default, restore it. And where it is in hold of that which is just and compassionate, support it. We lift up to you our city council members, mayor, and city staff. We give you thanks for their willingness to serve. We ask you to give them wisdom in their decisions and peace in their deliberations. Grant all of us as citizens sincerity, that we may persistently seek the things that endure, refusing those things which perish, and that amid things vanishing and deceptive we may see the truth steadily, follow the light faithfully, and grow ever richer in that love which is the life of all people. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Pastor, and please call the roll.
Johnson. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbach.
Hey, we don't have a chimney, so when Santa gets here, we'll do that one. But right now, we'll go ahead and do the homeless awareness. Would all of our students come up? Is this working? I hope Santa shows up. So I want to tell you, as a community, we're really working to up our game in how we address homelessness. And we've partnered with the Southwest Oklahoma Continuum of Care, which is 16 or 17 counties, I can't remember. And we had last Thursday, we had a big forum, and we had all of the service providers, many from outside the city, and we came together to talk about the challenges and how we do that, and also working to submit a plan, because there are millions of dollars available through ARPA, through the Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency, which has been given the charge over $34 million, I think it is. And we want to make sure we get an unfair share of that for Southwest Oklahoma. And that's what I told the director, and we had the director at our forum. And he was very impressed with what our group of homeless people, homeless service providers had put together. to address homelessness. And said no other community is doing this, so I'm really excited about this. And I appreciate all of these young ladies coming together to help support this proclamation for homeless awareness. Whereas the purpose of this proclamation is to bring awareness to the increasing population of individuals, youth, and families that are in a state of housing instability in the city of Lawton, acknowledge the need for additional safe and stable housing in the city of Lawton, and continue to show support for this underserved population of citizens. Whereas responding to the increasing number of homeless children and youth in the city of Lawton, Enrique Givens Johnson founded the Next Step TOP and has been providing housing, supporting services, and street outreach for youth 17 to 21 since 2008. She's a longtime member of the Southwest Oklahoma Continuum of Care and is the initiator of this new proclamation. Whereas National Homeless Youth Awareness Month is in November, we acknowledge the efforts of the McKinney-Vento representative for Lawton Public Schools, Andrea Weinstead, and staff, who have identified 1,023 children and youth in a homeless crisis situation in Lawton. Let that soak in just a minute. Whereas the homeless crisis in the city of Lawton is being addressed by a new collaboration between the city of Lawton and the Southwest Oklahoma Continuum of Care under the direction of Bernita Taylor, who was our Citizen of the Month just, I think, a month ago. And multiple service organizations throughout Lawton that work diligently to reduce homelessness and help citizens get back on their feet. And where we, as a city, we should do everything we can help to stabilize this underserved population. I thereby recognize December 2022 as Homelessness Awareness Month and encourage everyone to become better educated on this challenging situation in our city and to join me now in appreciating these young people for their support of homeless youth and homelessness in general. Now we're going to take a picture.
I just want to, if you guys can give another round of applause to these young people that are here. While their peers are at a pep rally, they're here in support of their peers that are in a housing crisis in school. And I'm going to let Ms. Kim Jones talk a little bit about some of the things that you see in their hands. And I just want to go back to the number of 1,023 children and youth from kindergarten up into the 12th grade. That's a number that is recalculated every single school year. So these numbers are not something that's carried over. These are actual numbers of identified children and youth in our school system. And if you can imagine one child, at least with 1 to 2 parents, that number triples for the number of people that are identified that are here homeless that are in a homeless crisis in our city. And it's very important that we remain aware of what's going on. It's not just those that we see on the streets, it's also those that we see that are in Lawton Public Schools. These kids diligently come to school to continue to get their education. And I commend Lawton Public Schools for being a great support. And we also have that age group that is 18 and over, 18 to 21, that faces a lot of different challenges as well with instability of housing. The numbers are real, and we do have a crisis here in our city. But I do want to pass the mic over to Kim Jones, who's going to talk about what these young people have done. And then also I'm going to pass the mic over to Ms. Cece here, who is part of the COC, and she can talk a little bit about what the COC is.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor, City Councilwoman Johnson, and City Council members and citizens of Lawton. These are students from MacArthur High School. This year, the science department, especially Gavin Nichols, developed a new program called the Crochet Club, and they wanted to find every opportunity to give back to the community. So in the month of October, what they did, these young people crocheted baby hats and they donated them to DHS. Well, this month they decided to crochet scarves, and they wanted to give to the homeless program. And I thought this was really neat, and they also left little notes inside each bag to give to each person who gets it to share their love. I thought this is a beautiful way to give them a lifelong skill set of giving back to the community, also a lifelong skill set of learning to crochet. And they did a beautiful job. Some of them, this was their first year ever doing this, and they made beautiful, beautiful hats and beautiful, beautiful scarves. And not only do we have young ladies in the program, we also have young men in the program. So if you ever get an opportunity, please reach out to Gavin Nichols at MacArthur High School. She'll be more than happy to share with you what they're doing. And also if you want to help assist her, because crochet is a skill set that very few people are gravitating to these days. And so we want to make sure we pick that back up and show everyone how you can get this skill set and how it can bless the community. So once again, I want to thank you to the City Council, to the Mayor, and to the citizens of Lawton. And give a hand to these young people because they missed the pep rally.
Okay, like Enrique said, I am, they call me CC, but I'm Cecilia Solano. I work at Mite Community Center, but I worked at C. Carter Crane for 4 years dealing with the homeless. The Continuum of Care is an organization that works together with all agencies and communities to bring them together, the resources together to help each other out. We have a pit count at the end of the 26th of January. The pit count counts how many homeless people we have so we can bring more funds into the county, the state, in our agency. So that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Jasmine? Yes.
Hello, my name is Jasmine from the Epsilon Delta chapter, and basically what we do is go around the community helping, and it looks really good on our college transcripts and stuff. So it's like a really good program for black adolescents to get out there and, you know, experience, explore, and we also take trips and stuff to, like, you know, help, and we also do like great things, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah. But yeah, it's really a great sorority.
Let's give them a round.
You know, I can't remember the punchline. And what to my wondering eyes should appear?
Yeah, I don't know.
Does anybody know the rest of that? Ho, ho, ho!
Merry Christmas. Oh, oh my goodness. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Oh, Merry Christmas. There you go, young lady. Merry Christmas. Oh my goodness. Oh, where's the other one?
He's skipping some of them. He apparently does have a naughty and nice list.
Well, I think some of those should cut back on sugar, yes?
So, Santa.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh,
Say Merry Christmas to Santa.
my.
You know, Santa, do you have a brother? There's a guy that comes up here and talks to us about trash in transit that looks awful lot like you.
No, I don't have a brother, but this auditorium, yes, it looks vaguely familiar. Yes. Well. Oh. Yes.
Oh, hey, look at that. I love Lawton pin. All right. Hey, that deserves a round of applause. I just can't imagine a better citizen of the month And thank you to the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women for thinking of this. To have Santa, and I want to tell you, these pictures up on the screen that they're going through are, I guess Santa every now and then gets carried around on the Goodyear Blimp.
Yes.
Yeah, you do?
Summer transportation.
Okay. But these pictures are almost exclusively taken in Children's Words of Hospital from Topeka, Kansas, all the way down to Gulfport, Mississippi. And I know that he gives away things like tablets, the electronic tablets like iPads, but I also know that this year, Santa will give away over 800 teddy bears, right?
Yes. Yes.
Basically teddy bears?
Yes.
Okay. And in different places, but mostly in those children's wards. And I'm going to read this proclamation, but I want you to know the story behind Santa Claus and what Santa does out of his pocket. Whereas Santa and his elves work hard all year long at the North Pole to prepare toys and candy to deliver across the world. Do you guys want to come up here and stand with Santa? Anybody else want to come up and stand with Santa? Come on up, Councilman-elect. Okay. And whereas on Christmas Eve, Santa loads his sleigh and prepares for the long journey around the world, while little boys and girls snuggle into bed to await Christmas morning. And whereas with the help of his faithful reindeer, Dasher and Dancer, Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid, Donner and Blitzen. Did I forget one?
Rudolph.
And of course, Rudolph, the most famous reindeer of all. Santa travels all over the entire earth in just one night, stopping at each and every home, slipping down the chimney, and leaving surprises for all the little children of the world. And whereas on Christmas morning, all children, young and old, awake to find much joy and happiness thanks to the tireless efforts of Santa and his helpers. And whereas Santa has worked to spread hope and joy to all for many, many centuries, I do hereby proclaim Santa Claus, and in particular this Santa Claus, as citizen of the month for December 2022, and commend this gentleman for his many contributions and extremely unselfish commitment to the happiness and joy of this community and the residents of Lawton Fort Sill and those children wards from Topeka, Kansas to Gulfport, Mississippi. Let's give Santa a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Now, Santa, I believe you have a few words for us.
Oh, yes.
But you do know that we have...
Yes, sit down, children. Oh.
Now remember, Santa, we have a time limit.
Yes. Oh, my, yes. I've been reminded that before.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love telling stories at Christmas time, and I love telling this story the best. Oh, my goodness. You see, over 200 years ago, Nicholas heard of a very poor family. And to honor the birth of Christ, he went to their home late one night. A window was open and stockings were drying by the fireplace. He took a small bag of gold and tossed it through the window, and it landed in one of the stockings. And thus began the tradition of Santa Claus. But over 2,000 years ago, during the reign of Caesar Augustus, a decree went forth that the whole world should be taxed, and Joseph, with his espoused wife Mary, left Nazareth, traveled through Judea unto the city of David known as Bethlehem. And there Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, for there was no room at the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the fields, watching over their flock by night. And the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall come to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and singing glory to God in the highest on earth, peace, goodwill towards men. As it came to pass, as the angels had gone from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, Let us now go into Bethlehem and see this which has come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they did so with haste. And there they found Mary, Joseph, and a babe lying in a manger. That is the true glory of Christmas, not the presents under the tree. For the greatest gift one can give, and by far the greatest gift one can receive, cannot be wrapped in a box and placed under a tree. For the greatest gift of all is love, yes? Santa Claus has to go now, but I want you children in bed, all of you, by 10 o'clock Christmas Eve, Eastern Standard Time. Yes? Oh, Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh.
Thank you, Santa. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
I think we might have something else we want to say from the women's.
Wow. I can't think of anyone more deserving that would bring cheer, hope, and the truth of God's word, not just here, but to all. So, Merry Christmas, and remember, it is Jesus, the reason for this season.
Yes. Well.
Thank you, Santa. Thank you, ladies. Now, I think Santa's going to go out in the foyer. So anybody, remember the proclamation said children young and old. Okay. Unfortunately, we have to get back to work. I'm going to recess this city council meeting and continue it till we are complete with the City Transit Trust special meeting and the Lawton Water Authority special meeting. I now call the City of Lawton City Transit Trust special meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren.
And a quorum is established. Business item number 1, consider approval of the minutes of the City Transit Trust special meeting of October 25, 2022. So moved. Have a motion for approval. Is there a second? And a second. Please call, are we voting or calling the roll?
Whatever you'd like to do.
Okay, please vote. Okay. We've got 7 of us. I need one more vote.
There it is.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. Item number 2, receive a presentation from staff, hold a public hearing, and select the sites for the Downtown Transit Center and the Maintenance and Operations Facility. We first have an interpretation by the city attorney.
Mayor, Council, so for this agenda item, we're going to receive the presentation, but we're not going to take any specific action today. There's no action language in the agenda item. We're gonna have a public hearing and allow for public comment, but there will be no action on this matter today.
Okay, that's the ruling. So we're ready for the presentation. Ryan?
Right. Good afternoon, Mayor, trustees. I'm not sure how I can follow Santa, but I'll give it a whirl. What I want to kind of do is kind of give everyone a little bit of a background on how we actually got here and what we're actually going to advise or give as a recommendation for where the Lawton Transit Center will actually be placed. And so have a small presentation with some slides to actually give. I'm not sure who has a clicker. So a little bit of a background on this is that back in about 2018, we were tasked with coming up with a location for a downtown transfer center. Currently, right now, we do not have a center or a building for the LATS riders, and we believe that a building will help enhance pedestrian and traffic safety, enhance operating efficiency, provide customers, obviously, with a high quality of amenities, a safe facility for transferring in buses, and obviously enhance the mobility options for our transit riders. And so back in 2018, we actually started to look for a location. It was decided that the downtown area was the best place for this to actually be, mainly for the future development for the city of Lawton. And so we looked at a number of different properties, but one of the essential parts of the property is, needed to be owned by the city of Lawton. And so one of the properties that we came up with was actually at the old police station. And so we looked at the old police station. We had developed some conceptual designs of this, but in the end, this was actually not the best option for us. And so we were tasked to come back to look at some other options. Obviously, COVID happened in 2020, so it kind of put some delays on those options. But back in about 2021, 2022, we looked at a couple of other properties, and the one property that came up was off of Railroad in between A and B Avenue. But while we were actually coming up with this particular property and destination point for our transit center, it came to the idea that why not have both operations and maintenance facility in the same area as our transfer center. This will help with operational needs, and it will save money on a year-to-year basis. And so we also looked at the property off of D Avenue, off of Railroad, which is just north of the Creamery. And I'll kind of show you that. So this is kind of not a conceptual design, but basically kind of the layout of what the transit center, or sorry, the administration, the administration and operations and maintenance facility, where it would look, what it would look like and how it would be actually designed. And so we looked at these two particular properties, and again, everything that's actually highlighted in yellow, and this is actually the location off of Railroad between A and B, and everything that's highlighted in yellow is what is owned by the city of Lawton. Everything else we would have to actually purchase. And so back in October of this year, we presented that particular option to the council, and we were actually met with some, I wouldn't say it's pushback, but some questions of the viability of this particular location from some business leaders around the area. And so after that, we were tasked with coming up with another option that we could present to the trust. And one of the things that we wanted to actually look at was, again, is it owned by the city of Lawton? Is it located in the downtown area? And you know, how big is the actual property, and is it going to be worth operationally? So, sorry, this is another slide of the where the Creamery site is, and again, this is actually owned by the city of Lawton. This is a kind of a layout of what it actually could be. This is a property down in Denton, Texas, of the maintenance and administration facility. And Again, this is just kind of a design of what it could look like, and this is actually transposed. Yes, that is the Ryan Landers Center. Yes, I apologize. So might as well put my name on something nowadays. So, and so we wanted to transpose this, kind of give everyone kind of a visual of what the operations and administrative facility would actually look like. Now, this particular site has not actually been questioned. I think a lot of people and most people actually like this particular site. It's, again, centrally located. It has enough space, enough size for us to actually function as an operation. And so the sites in question are actually where the transit center would actually be located. And so that's where we come to, the Welcome/Transit Center. And so the site that we actually located is actually on the Gore median between 3rd and 6th Street. And the reason for this is that, number one, it is 100% city-owned, which means that we can use all the value of this property to leverage to go after federal dollars, which is vastly important because we don't want to actually use or would refrain from using local taxpayer money to actually fund this project. Whatever monies that we can do to leverage to get more federal dollars, that's what we actually want to do. The actual site is actually bigger than the site off of Railroad, which actually presents some unique options as to what other things we can actually do with this property. Now, I mentioned the Welcome Center because from my understanding and actually talking with the Chamber, the Chamber's been wanting a Welcome Center for the last couple of years, but it's been hard to come by with funding or any of those type of things. This presents an excellent option for us to actually do that. And very exciting to the fact that now we can actually join a Welcome Center, Transit Center, and a transit hub all in one centralized location. One of the issues that we actually had with actually both properties is that you're kind of what's called landlocked, is that you don't have really a whole lot of room for expansion. Well, with this particular property, we would have that because we can still go west on Gore with those medians if more service is actually needed on that. So one of the things that we also want to kind of point out is that the old police station, and I'll have a slide that kind of shows this here in a little bit, has actually or is being repurposed for another point. We are looking to actually create a parking lot for that, create green space as well as electric charging stations at that particular location. And I have another slide, but I'm on my point, so kind of going with that. But one of the other great opportunities that we actually see with this particular site is that it actually will help beautify the area. You have a nice building, you can actually add a lot of interesting amenities, and it will actually be right next to the new development of Shepler Park, which is very exciting. And again, you tag that along with the farmers market. This is actually the start of a very, very nice area that people will gladly come to. The other idea is that this particular building is not going to be just a regular transit building. We want to make this nice, something that people are absolutely proud of. People are excited about this. And with talking with a number of citizens, talking with business leaders, I think you can actually get a sound taste of what they can actually envision. And so when we present some of the photos, not photos, but some of the slides upcoming, I want everyone to kind of think of what it can actually be. This is not the end all, this is, done and done. This is exactly what you want it to be. This is your transit center, your welcome center. This is what the citizens actually want to do. And you want to be proud of something when you come into Lawton. And that's what gets me very excited about this. And that's why I've been excited about this particular project, even though it has been a long time coming. But so, we'll talk about a couple of other things that this location presents, but one of the other things that we would actually be adding into this area is zero emission. Our buses will actually, about half of our fleet will actually need to go to zero emission in the next 3 to 5 years. The reason for that is that half of our fleet is past its useful life. And what that means is that it will actually start costing more money on maintenance to keep up with these buses. I don't know if anyone can remember our buses back in 2015 to 2017. They were very old, decrepit, and it basically helped us survive. The problem that ended up ensuing was that we had to, because we did not have a good plan to go after federal money at that particular point, we ended up having to spend almost $3 million on local money to buy 7 buses at that particular time. What we can do now with finishing our zero emission plan, we're able to actually go after federal grants, and we are only having to pay 20% of those of the total cost of the vehicles. And so it's a significantly less amount of money. Added to that, there is a mandate / goal of the federal government by 2035 to be zero emission, and that is for all fleets. And by 2050, it's all vehicles. You have a lot of manufacturers that are completely getting away from combustible engines. And so we just don't want to be left behind with a lot of what we're actually doing. These are kind of the reasons why we actually are moving. One of the reasons why this is actually a good particular place for this. But without further delay, let me kind of show you a couple of slides and what it would actually look like a little bit. So this is kind of an aerial view of what the property would kind of look like with a transit center / welcome center that's kind of transposed onto this property. As you can kind of see, there's kind of a bridge that kind of goes over that, and I'll talk about the pedestrian bridges here in a second. Again, this is just a concept that we can actually use. The next property, again, this is just another property. Depends on how you actually want to go about the design of this. This is a much larger transit center. Not working. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, the police station that's actually going to be reallocated or reassigned, as you can kind of see, this is kind of a visual of what that particular property would actually look like, the parking lot, green space with electric charging. And then here's kind of a street view of what that actually could look like. Again, just a conceptual drawing of what it actually could look like. But we're, again, very excited. Right now, we only have one set of charging stations, and that's actually by the Hilton, sorry. So as I mentioned, why we think this would actually be a good place or a good site for the actual transit center is that it actually can help with traffic flow will not actually be affected by this particular layout. And the reason for that is that if you actually look at how traffic flows on an interstate or anything, traffic still continues. And so that's basically how the buses would come in. They would just get off onto the left side and then continue into the actual transit hub, drop people off, pick people up. But again, just wanted to give kind of a visual of what it actually could look like. Obviously, this is the Lawton, the Public Safety Center, and the same type of layout that we would actually have for the Transit Center and Welcome Center is the similar type of focus that we would actually look at, the same architecture that we were looking at. One of the other visuals that we wanted to give is kind of, again, this is kind of what the Welcome Center / Transit Center could look like. This is from the University of Wisconsin. You can see kind of the open view, a lot of glass that kind of shows the openness of this particular property. The conceptual archway that you can actually have off of Gore Boulevard. Again, this is just an idea that we have thought of. And then one of the ideas while we actually came up with this particular property is that we would have a pedestrian bridge that actually had both sides of Gore connected, it would be ADA accessible. And again, it could actually provide access to both sets of parks. You would have Shepler and Elmer Thomas access, which right now we do not actually have. We would make sure that we have pedestrian crossings as well, improve sidewalks in this particular area. And so again, these are just some ideas that we actually have come up with. And again, this bridge doesn't just have to connect. It can connect into the chamber. It can connect into a number of different particular places. This is a site in Beaumont, Texas of their transit center, and this is kind of similar to what we can kind of look like, the kind of brick layout of an architecture of what we would be looking at. And this is another transit center in Waco, Texas that the current contractor that I work for helped design and build this. And it's, again, a very open type building. It has a lot of amenities and has been there for almost 10, 15 years, if not longer. So another, sorry, I have a couple of these. This is another welcome center that we like the layout. This might be maybe too big for that particular area, but again, just want to give everyone kind of a visual of this. Now, what we wanted to do when we first kind of looked at some of these properties is that we wanted to look at what are the benefits. Obviously, we want a grand entrance to the downtown area, a potential visual landmark to this area. We believe that this can actually be a multi-use building. This doesn't have to just be used for transit. It can be used, again, by the chamber. People can rent space out. There are a number of things that you can actually do that could be revenue generators at this particular property as well. As I mentioned, one of the big components is that it is 100% owned by the city of Lawton. And that is very key. This means that we do not have to go and purchase property, which is a hassle I'm sure all of you have dealt with from time to time. And so again, it just makes it a lot easier in that process. The last thing is that we believe that because it is so close and the proximity of the downtown amenities, your Shepler Park, your library, your farmer's market, Vista, and any other future development, this property meets and checks all of those boxes. And that's why we are very excited about it. We believe that this is the number one property that we have looked at, and I understand that all three of them have their benefits and their negatives to it, but we believe that this particular property has so many more advantages than anything that we've actually looked at, and we're, again, very excited about that, but yeah, I think, and obviously this is in the TIF district as well, so that presents another good option. And then I guess I open it up for further discussion.
Council, do you have questions before we open the public hearing?
Mayor, I just would like, if you don't mind, I have been chairing the public transit little committee that we have with Alan, when she's not here. I think he skipped that on purpose. But myself and Alan and Enrica have been on the committee, seems like since the beginning of time. We've been working on trying to find a spot. And every time we think we find a spot, there's a reason why that's not a good spot. Yeah. And we've looked at different spots throughout the city. One of the things I think, Ryan, that we need to really hit on is why the downtown area for for it to be down there. What's our big reason for that? I think, and now it's just so you know, we had a meeting about a week ago, and we came up with a plan to have another meeting of stakeholders in the area, and we had that as well, and I think everything went pretty well. Yes. They showed what we had been talking about, and again, this is just the basic beginning of what could be. My biggest concern, and if any of you know me, has been beautification. That's what I came here on. That's what I'm going to leave here on. I only got one more meeting, so I'll be leaving here soon. But I'm not going to leave Lawton enhancement. I'm going to leave beautification. And to me, the most important part is the same thing we did with the public safety facility. We built an amazing facility. and it looks beautiful, when everybody thought it was going to be ugly and it shouldn't go there. So we increased property values in those areas just because of that. Now the same thing happens here in this, is the thought that we have to kind of think outside the box at times. And I don't think that this is the perfect location. Don't get me wrong. I think the entire committee will agree. Enrica, chime in if you agree with me or don't agree. But I don't think any of us thought this was like, oh, the one-all, do-all. This was another location that was another option without us having to buy property. I think another thing to really hit on is the amount of money that's out there, federal money today, that is limited in time,
Yes.
limited in how soon we can get it, and how many hundreds of millions of dollars that are out there that the city of Lawton can get, not only through states money, but also through the Fed side. The Fed got money from the state through.
Yes.
So fill that void in so people understand that this is not, we're not going to have to go out and raise $40,000 to build a transit center.
Correct. So basically, it was released about a couple of weeks ago that there is close to $66 million in just state money that had been allocated through the infrastructure bill. This doesn't mean that there's other federal dollars to actually go after, which again, we would intend to go after. But yes, to answer that question, there is a lot of money, and that's just with the building itself. On the zero emission side, which is, again, just as important, there's even more money out there because of the mandate and goal that the federal government is actually going towards. There was an interesting article back in 2019, 2020 that said that all transit could basically be zero emission by the year 2035 if there was an estimated $58 to $89 billion. Well, turns out it was allocated in the infrastructure bill, and so that is the achievable goal that where we are at. And if the problem is if we don't do anything, is that other agencies will be in there before us. The good thing that we have actually started is we were able to get started with our transit master plan above some of the other transit systems here in the state. And then we were also able to start our zero emission study, which we are required to have a transition plan in that study, again, before everyone else. There are transit agencies in the state that do have zero emission buses, but they are not moving towards half of their fleet like we would be. The plan is to actually move towards zero emission by the time 2035 comes around, and so it just makes a whole lot of sense to right now to go after these dollars because they're not going to be available. This is a 5-year bill. If the money runs out, the money runs out. And I'll say this, there hasn't been an infrastructure bill in 80 years. I don't think you're going to find one in a while. So.
Okay, and we're going to go on with council comments, and we're going to go in order, and we're going to respect the new timing policy. Mr. Fortenbaugh, comments or questions? Ms. Johnson.
I just wanted to express some of the concerns that citizens have, and I think you all have the answers to those, and just to kind of share. One of them is beautification. 5, 10, 15 years down the road, what is it going to look like in terms of maintenance? The other thing that you just touched upon was the grant funding that's available to get this going. What would be the plan to continue to be able to maintain? We talked about multi-purpose use and renting out space and things like that. And then the other is traffic impediment, and I know that you touched upon that as well. I think maybe just a little bit more about how that may or may not be affected.
So answering the first question with beautification, the maintaining of this particular property would be maintained by LATS. And so the contractor, hopefully it's HTG, would be responsible for the day-to-day maintaining of this particular property. The funds to maintain that would actually be federal funded and locally funded, based kind of similar to what we're doing now. So any day-to-day maintenance of that to maintain it would be included into our yearly budget, if you will. But it would be main responsibility and a guarantee that I would like to make that it would continue to look as good as it looks on the first day in 5, 10, and 15 years. The second question was, I apologize.
They were kind of combined together.
Okay.
But I think one of the most important things would be, you know, the big concern about traffic. I know that the LATS buses already go down Gore Boulevard coming from the station now, but just a little assurity. And have you all spoken with the Downtown Revitalization Committee as well to kind of talk about some plans that they have and how these two projects may go hand in hand?
Okay. The answer to the first question is yes. We have looked into how we would ensure that traffic flow would actually continue to flow correctly. The way you actually design this is the best answer for that. And as I mentioned before, if you actually design it to where the buses flow in and flow out rather than be parked on Gore, you won't have any issue with traffic flow. We were actually at the farmers market on Friday meeting with the revitalization committee, and we wanted to kind of show them where it would obviously be and what it would actually look like. And it so happens that there were about 3 or 4 buses that were turning on 4th Street at that particular time, and there were no traffic issues. Traffic flow continued. There were no issues with that. And so that was kind of, I wanted to kind of put that particular point in there, but we did meet with the revitalization committee, and they were excited. They were very excited with the fact that it's near the farmers market. It's near the downtown area. This means that they can start to bring more people to the farmers market. On top of the parking that we discussed with the old police station, I think presents so many opportunities that we didn't envision before with the property off of Railroad. I think, and that's the exciting part about this. And now, and there's a term called the food oasis? Food desert. Food desert, that's right. So right now, with our new routes that we would be designing, we would be able to go to every single food bank, grocery store, all within our radius at this point. And so that's another important feature that we are able to bring to this whole entire plan. So.
Mr. Warren.
Council, I just wanted to mention that that letter that was passed out came from a constituent of mine. I just told him I'd pass it along.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Hankins.
Well, the clarification on the traffic flow has been helpful to me. I have had trouble visualizing this, but I think that helped. I've had a lot more people against it being there than I have for it, and that's why I was elected to represent my constituents. So this is just one of many hard decisions that we face. But anyway, I guess we don't have to face that right now.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I have a lot of questions, as always. I'm excited, too, because I've been working with you on this, and I've been looking. I tried to solve the problems at the previous site, so I spent a lot of time, a lot of hours. But today I actually went out and rode the bus for 3 hours, and I visited with people who actually ride the bus, not people who have $75,000 SUVs and don't ever go downtown anyway. And so they were excited. They said, great, we need to have a place to get out of the rain, out of the cold, out of the heat. We need a place to go to the bathroom. And ironically, that was echoed by your bus drivers as well. Yes. So this is a well-needed facility. And it's ironic that we just had Santa Claus here, and we're talking about the birth of Christ. And yet all the phone calls, or most of the phone calls I've gotten on this, at some point in time, people said, well, we just don't want those people downtown. So those people that I rode with today were about 70% LPS students going to school who would like to have a safe and warm place to transfer. There were a few people that worked at the casino There was a young lady that worked at Burger King. There were some veterans that got on board and were able to ride to their medical. So these are the people who need this the most. People that we should be looking out for. If we want to be like Christ, then we need to be taking care of the least of us. And right now everybody's saying, oh no, I just don't want those people in my neighborhood. I've been here for 30 years. I've stood up for this town time after time after time and said it's about the people. We have the best people. But I got to tell you, I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed of some of the things that you guys have said. You act like we're putting up a homeless shelter in the middle of no. We're looking to put up something beautiful that we can all be proud of, and that will serve the people. And as far as the downtown redevelopment goes, I'm on that committee as well. I talked to the architect this morning. He said, man, I'm all in. He goes, it looks good. It looks like it meets all the needs that we have. So many of the excuses I've heard, what about the bus fumes? Well, it's going to be electric. There won't be any bus fumes. What about the noise? Well, they're going to be electric. There won't be any noise. Okay, we designed the actual bus part of it with kind of like NASCAR. There'll be a pit road that you pull into, so there won't be any traffic congestion. We're going to be able to expand it. One of the drawings shows 12 slots as opposed to 8, so that if we have to expand in the future, we can do that. So the only other question I had was, will the state money be on top of federal money?
Yes.
So we could get more than 80% paid for?
Yes.
Okay. And I think, I just want to say, you guys have done a remarkable job, and I know my time's up. You guys have done a remarkable job, and we keep pulling the rug out from under you, and I think all of your staff has done a great job. All of our planning has done a great job. I know there's a bunch of issues aren't solved yet, but I think this is awesome, and I think we need to go forward with it.
Ms. Chapman.
Ryan, you and I spoke right before the meeting, and I will reiterate several things that have already been said here, that a main concern was about the maintenance and the upkeep of this business. And I believe you said that LATS would be having a contract to deal with this?
So LATS as the contractor would be responsible for maintaining, similar to what we do at our leased property, that we have to maintain it, that would be our responsibility.
Is this a renewable contract yearly?
For the, no, the operational contractor.
Okay.
Yeah, not a separate contractor,
Okay.
unless we did contract to do the maintenance for that, but right now it would actually be maintained by LATS, and so it would be the responsibility of the LATS employees, if you will.
I did not realize until yesterday that the highest number of riders are our LPS students, Cameron, and hopefully VOTEC maybe might be part of that in the future, I hope. But they need a safe, clean, maintained, kept up facility for parents to drop off children to get ready to go to school, or a safe place for them to have that area for transfer, bathrooms. And so many times we have seen in Lawton things being developed and then not maintained, and that's a huge concern.
Absolutely. I think I echo that with you, and you know, if this site is selected, I think it would be a huge honor to make sure this is a well upkept property. It would be, we want to make sure people are proud to actually see this. Obviously, it's going to be right in the middle of where people are actually driving you know, into and out of, and so it would be our responsibility to make sure that it continues to look visually nice.
I think this will also help people realize possibly what could be, whether it's going to be in Gore or someplace else. Other locations have been suggested to me, the mall parking lot on the northwest side of that area too, and some other places. So I don't know if you all have looked at that or considered that in any way.
We did actually look at that. That was actually one of the properties we looked at that before railroad and everything. We were told at the time that it had been repurposed either through some other development or The big issue was that it floods. And that was a serious concern where it would be a lot of money to make sure that we would not be in a flooding portion of that. But again, we have to make sure that we have enough space to where we can build, and depending on how much space would be available, that is the concern, because we don't know how much Vista would actually need, and then again, what other development projects. But that is the only concern, I guess a big concern with that particular location. Yep.
Okay, everybody's had a chance one time. Do we have any follow-up before we open? Ms. Hankins?
Mayor, we are going to have a transit center. It's just where. So we're not ruling out that we'll have a center. It's where the controversy is. Right now, anyway, but we're not going to not have a transit center for people to ride lats.
Yeah.
I come from a background in social work, and I don't say those people ever, and just want to make that clear again. And so it is important for people to get to jobs and people who have medical issues to have a way when other than driving. I just wanted to be clear about that.
And to kind of answer the question about those people, I think when we were getting feedback from, whether it was through social media or just talking, I think it was the idea that there are some people that don't understand the need for transit and public transit here. As you mentioned, LPS is a huge part of our ridership, but it's not the only ridership. There are people that fall on tough times, that need help, and public transit helps, it facilitates that. And right now, the problem is that we don't have the passenger amenities to help them. I was interviewed a couple of months ago to ask about the bus shelters and the bus stops, and how there's nothing for people to be under. Well, it's about to be the cold weather, and so people aren't going to ride the buses if they can't actually be outside. It's no different than in the summertime when it's 108 degrees outside. So we actually ended up trying to do other passenger amenities with our bus app and those type of things, but it's still not enough. And I think I get the sense that I think everyone agrees with that, but I think it is very time sensitive with where we're at. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Fortenbach.
I just want to say I've received a lot of feedback from people in the community, and quite honestly, they don't like this location. And I have to agree with them. I can remember back, we used to have the Christmas lights and holiday lights out there and the big Christmas tree. And while that was going on, they had to slow Gore down to about 20 miles an hour to allow the traffic to go through. Right now, we have a huge traffic problem on Gore from 11th all the way out to past I-44. The LMPO just obligated over $100,000 to study that traffic and figure out what to do to make the traffic flow smoothly. Because if you live on the east side, it doesn't. You get stuck every time you go across I-44. And there's traffic issues in here too where we're looking at. Has anybody told the LMPO that while you're doing the study, we're planning on putting this big facility right there?
That's why the timing is actually essential, because we have not started, or the LMPO has not started that particular plant project, and so the longer the delay is, the more that they can't actually understand, hey, this is actually part of the overall plan, so make sure we're involved in that project. Again, I think I had mentioned earlier is that I think the idea and why people think that the traffic flow is that we're going to stop dead on, like no different than Sheridan or where our buses go currently, and that's just not the truth. The way that we would design this, similar to a NASCAR or similar to interstate, to where you would pull off and it would not impede traffic at all. If our buses are trying to make a left-hand turn, you have to slow down or you're going to run into the back of them, which they do from time to time, unfortunately. This is not going to impede traffic. We do not think it's going to impede traffic. Again, during the design process of this, these are all of the things that we need to have to make sure none of that actually occurs. The property is big enough to where you can actually make sure that the issues that people have are taken into account. And I understand, actually, when this property first got brought up, one of my first things was, well, what is it going to do with traffic flow? And so, again, once we think about these type of things and come up with solutions for that, I think it's actually, it just sounds better. And that's why we wanted to give people a visual of what it could look like in the presentation, because we had heard exactly that, and we tried to explain it to people, and then they take a step back. Oh, okay, well, now I get it. That was exactly at the meeting last Friday with the Revitalization Committee. They didn't see it in the beginning either, but once we presented it, they understood the reasons why. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's why we've had to do social media posts, we've had to do Facebook Live posts, giving this information out because of the misinformation, if you will.
A lot of this stuff more than once, okay? And so let's try to keep your answers concise. I want to answer them, but if you've already answered them, please don't go over it again.
I hope I didn't answer the same questions twice. What is the delay you're talking about getting the information to the LMPO?
So the LMPO needs to actually, I think the contract is about to.
We've had some discussion with ODOT recently about some of the funding for that study, and so we're having to shift funds from one group to another. So we were actually supposed to have Transportation, Technical, and Policy Board meetings this morning, but due to a lack of a quorum, we were unable to have those. But that was one of the items on the agenda that we were going to discuss, that traffic flow study.
Okay, and the lack of the quorum was in the technical committee.
It was in the technical committee, and they're the recommending board to the policy, so we were not able to take those items to policy.
Okay, I'm just, thanks. No more questions. I'm just trying to appreciate at what point we would be able to tell the LMPO so they're fully aware and know we're going to we might put this here, and what effect is that going to have?
Our next meeting for the LMPO is January 3rd, and we plan on putting it on then to discuss with them.
Are you good? Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, just one more point. These, and you did say this, but these buses are already traveling on Gore.
Correct.
And they're already in that exact same area, and there's not going to be any more buses, so there's no more traffic. It's not going to create any more traffic. It's not going to obstruct any more traffic. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're actually going from 9 to 8 buses in our new routes.
So we're
it's
actually going to
nice.
improve traffic flow.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to make one comment. A basketball coach would tell you to be fast, but don't hurry. I believe we're hurrying this, and I believe we're going to make some mistakes if we don't slow down. One of those mistakes I've made, I don't know who you met with, but I met with 2 members of the Revitalization Committee, Downtown Revitalization Committee of the Chamber. They said they hadn't met with you, so I'm not sure who you met with, and they were not for it. I was also told in a public meeting that the chamber CEO was for it, and I texted her right then, and she said nope. That was her response, nope. So I think that comes from being in a hurry. I think we're trying to rush this, and I'm entitled to my opinion, and you don't need to shake your head, okay? So I'm glad that for whatever reason the city attorney has said this is not an action item and we won't be taking action today. And I want to encourage you to call the stakeholders together and have a meeting. Don't just have an open meeting. Call the stakeholders together and have us sit down and let everybody have their say. Now, I didn't ask for comment. With that, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. There'll be a 3-minute time limit, and everybody's willing to come. And I want to say this as well. As I go around passing out the I Love Lawton pins, everybody that's here is here because they love Lawton. And so we disagree. Okay. We disagree. This is a community working through a challenge, and that's okay. And we don't have to be mad at each other. Let's come and let's say what we have to say, and let's don't be mad at each other. Let's just work through this challenge together as a committee. Now, the microphone is open. Who would like to talk? I'm sure some of you came to talk. Come on up. All right, Miss Alberti, you're first.
Yes.
We need your name and address for the record.
Winona Alberti. I stay at 1505 and a half Northwest Arlington. I am in one of those stakeholders that ride the bus. You don't see them come out to the meeting because this is what they say when I ride the bus. They don't want to hear what we got to say. They're not interested in us at all. I've had to ride it when I was bald-headed, no hair from cancer. I've had it in the wheelchair. I see babies unwrinkled. It's icy cold outside, and you know what I do? Go get them a coat. Go to Walmart and get them a coat. Because they're standing there with no clothes, little top and bottoms on. So they do need a place. We need a place for shelter, snow, and rain. We do. Because you still out there waiting for the bus 10 to 15 minutes. It's cold. It's frozen. By the time you get on the bus, you're about frozen. And that's one thing we need. I don't know about the location, whatever, but we do need that. And, you know, you can't say, okay, so 10 years we might be still talking about the same issue, but it's much needed. How many of you all on the council have rode the buses? The blue, the green, the red, the yellow? Okay, 2 days, 1 day, ride a week, 2 weeks, and see what's going on in that bus. Yeah, those people, they're human people. They love people, they're just without cars. And some of them can't drive. But the idea is transportation needs to be provided for everybody.
All right, thank you, Miss Alberti. Hello there.
Hi there. My name is Joanne Houghton. I live at 806 Arlington. It's real kind of close to Gore. My question is, I haven't heard anything about the bridge. Did you say it was handicapped people could go up and down the bridge?
Yes, it would be ADA accessible.
Okay. I just haven't heard anything about the bridge.
Okay, and I do think we can show you a slide. There it is. And now, that's a conceptual drawing. That's not. Miss Houghton, there's a picture of it. Thank you so much. Come on up, ma'am.
Karen Woodward, 4523 Southwest Cherokee Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
I find Gore, it's an artery that I use quite a bit, and I think it's very busy now. And to have the buses in this system on it, I'm not impressed that that's going to relieve that congestion. I do believe in having some protection for our riders, and so I'm all for that. And there could be an area downtown, as was said in our local newspaper's editorial last week, and an area where perhaps there could be building protection for the riders. So there are other options, and so, Mayor, I appreciate not moving so fast that we're making a mistake.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Who else would like to come? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Terry Birch. I live at 211 Southeast Heather Lane. I'm 76 years old, and I've lived in Lawton all my life. I tried to find out when Gore Boulevard was actually made the way it is now. But as a young child, I wouldn't know. But since I've been 10 to 11 years old, that's been like that. We've heard this song and dance before when Urban Renewal tore the whole downtown down. People don't like it. Anybody that's ever lived here, and even people that come from out of town, they're not impressed with that mall. It was real nice in the beginning because it was new and shiny like a new toy, but it's not today. And so if we could have looked into the future, we'd have had sense enough not to do that. And that's what I think of that strip downtown. And the paper said, it has room for advancement. Oh my God, are we going to build all the medium up with big buildings? I don't care how pretty they are. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. You put Goodyear out away from the city. Now you've got a medium, beautified, and hopefully people will continue to try to take care of it. Why would you want to go and build any kind of buildings in the middle of it? And he talked about several things. He said that he was going to go emission-free. Well, we couldn't use the police station because it was said that the food place didn't like it because it was too much emissions. If he's going to go emission-free, he can do that anywhere he goes. And the other thing is, talking about the traffic, have you ever followed a bus? What do? You slow down or you go around. Now, I don't know what his idea of continued flow is, but a lot of times you're around these school buses, these last buttons, it's not continued flow. You get behind them and everybody behind them wants to start moving over, whether there's room or not. So that's not good traffic either. I think this is one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. I think it's the second biggest mistake this city of Lawton could do. I'd like you to pass a law that you could never build anything on that medium. It's ridiculous. Why do we want to tear down? We just keep tearing down in the city of Lawton. And I'm against it, and I pray to God that y'all do find another place. And I appreciate you taking the time to look at this a little further.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming, and thank you for loving Lawton. Who else would like to come and give their opinion? Yes, ma'am, we need your name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Geneva Carr. I live at 911 Northeast Tortoise Drive. And I want to just say that the public service, the bus is a public service for all people, not just people who need it. Regardless whether your car break down like mine did last year in August. I've been riding the bus daily, every day, rain, sleet, and snow, and walking from one point to the other. It's a great public service. If you need a ride anywhere, you can go anywhere in Lawton you want to. All you have to do is pay attention to the routes and follow them. But it is a great public service for all of Lawtonians, not just people who need them. Your car may break down, you're on the side of the road, catch bus. They have the system is set up where you have your bus routes. All you have to do is pay attention to the routes. Now you can download them on your phone, take that information, look at it, and you can track them. Every morning when I leave the house, I track the bus when they start, so I know the time to walk and get to that point. If you have a problem, you can see where you're going, where the bus is at that particular time, and you're good. All you have to do is make sure that you allow yourself enough time to meet the bus, because they have so many obstacles against them. It's so much against them with people getting on and off the bus, trying to put in funds, not counting right, or not having the correct funds. And again, wheelchairs, when you have to load and unload, that takes up time. So their scheduling, it may be a little bit off, but that's out of their control. But other way, it's a great public service for all of Lawton, not just those that need it. And in time of other needs, it's available. It's a public service that is very much needed here in Lawton. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Come on up, sir. And we need your name and address, please.
Thank you. John Horton, 1316 Northwest Sheridan Road. I've lived in Lawton since 1963, and I remember the old bus system. The prior lady speaker used a word which I thought would get me in trouble. You did not censor her, so I don't think I'll be censored. When the word was ridiculous that you're going to take up the Gore median. If any of you have ever been to some big cities, I remember Kansas City, Missouri, they have the Paseo Drive. It's basically the same thing that Gore Boulevard is. It's a parkway. I know you'd probably have to do a zoning variance because that whole area is residential north of there, and I don't know if it seems like ever since they built the Villa apartments where the former McKinley School is, that there's sort of been an encroachment constantly take over that residential area, which is of historic significance. So, yes, I would totally object to having the Parkway, as we might call it, or the Gore median taken over. But I won't leave you with just negatives. I'm going to leave you with positives. To me, the best idea would be to have it either, as the lady councilman said, Ms. Hankins, to have it over by J.C. Penney. Okay, there's flooding there because there is a collapsed or obstructed drainage pipe. That's not a billion-dollar issue, and someone should have looked into why J.C. Penney has flooded in the past, but apparently nobody knows how to run a robot through the drainage pipe to figure out what the obstruction is. My idea is to have it at the Patterson Center, which is 4 Northeast Arlington. The city owns the Patterson Center. The city owns all the land surrounding the Patterson Center. In fact, the reason why the public safety building was put where it is because all of that railroad land, well, obviously that railroad land extends north to I don't know how far. So I would politely suggest that the Patterson area center, whether that building is kept or that the bus station be built around it, is an idea. In the newspaper, they keep talking about, oh, it's not right next to the library. That constantly comes up. Currently, 4 of the routes all go in and out through downtown, basically through C Avenue. So you can either do a transfer to one of those routes that goes through downtown, or there could be a shuttle, or there's a third idea, like in Seattle, the downtown area is ride-free. For Lawton, that would be from the current tracks that are currently in operation to 11th Street to Gore Boulevard. So finally, the Gore median needs to stay as a parkway. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Who else would like to come? If others would like to speak, they could be making their way and sit here on the front row so that we can keep the meeting moving. Darrell Jones, tell us your name.
Darrell Jones, 3510 Northeast Cache Road. Been a citizen of Lawton since 1969. Know it very well, know all of you people, well, most of you people up here. But one thing, I don't think that there's anyone in this city that would oppose a transition center. My thought is it's just the wrong location. It's the wrong location. You got a main artery into our city. I've had one commercial real estate person told me one time that when he brings people in this city looking for a location, he comes down Gore Boulevard. That's where he comes down. I think, if anything, what we need to do with Gore Boulevard is really manicure it, landscape it, and make it a visual point. I'm not saying that these buildings you're going to build are not going to be pretty. They're going to be nice. Hopefully they'll be well maintained. There'll be proper security. There'll be proper hygiene management for this facility. And I don't think there's anyone in this room or this city is going to oppose what you guys are trying to do. I definitely not. My wife and I, when you first came out with the LATS bus system, we couldn't be any more happier. I mean, I don't know how many times, especially Connie, my wife, complimented the LATS program as far as transportation and getting people from A to B, from an origin to a destination. It's a wonderful idea, but it's just the wrong location. We already have an infrastructure problem from 11th Street to I-44 or to the lights down there by the casino. There's already an infrastructure problem. And I don't think we need to compound that with any more transportation at this point in time to Gore Boulevard. If anything, like I said, let's make Gore Boulevard really a showcase for people coming to Lawton. So many people. We have a land cross. I live at East Lake. We have land, 130 acres, that was bought by D.R. Horton. the other day, within a year and a half or 2 years, no telling how many cookie cutter homes are going to be built in that area. And one of the main arteries, too, for those people, and East Lawton, all of East Lawton people, is either Rogers Lane or Gore Boulevard. So I'm going to leave it at that. I just think it's the wrong location. I appreciate what you're doing, and I thank everybody. I don't think there's any opposition. It's just the wrong location. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Grigg?
Darrell, you did a good job. Jay Grigg, 2215 Northwest Baltimore Circle. I want to echo a little bit of what Darrell said and follow up on something the mayor said in his comments. My family's been around here about 90 years. And in my lifetime, not those of you sitting in this room, the council's made some really great decisions. When I was a kid, my grandfather was working for the city as a real estate agent, bought up all that land to expand Sheridan Road to a 4-lane road. He bought up a bunch of farmland so we could put floodgates and expand our water shelter, our water storage out at Lake Ellsworth. All great decisions. We've also made some poor decisions in Lawton in my lifetime. And I echo what Darrell said. My kids, when they were in high school, rode the buses. We got to have mass transit. Any progressive city has mass transit. You got to do whatever you do it right, okay? But I will also tell you this, as a retired Army officer, I have been involved in running some complex organizations. I understand having centralized access, centralized maintenance. I mean, if you've ever been the executive officer of a cannon battalion, you understand that. So I got it. I got to have one spot. Great idea. Great idea. If we're going to mission free, great idea. But I'm with the mayor on this. I think we're rushing this. And I don't like the location. Gore Boulevard, we've done so well. That new safety center looks really good. That's a beautiful building. I'm glad we did it. I mean, I know y'all got a lot of heartache over that deal. I think it looks great. I think the shopping center on 2nd Street was a great idea. But everybody comes in Lawton. They come in Gore and come west. They come from the north and come down 2nd Street. And we've done all that good work there. I just don't think the shop and filling station and wash rack needs to be right there. I mean, that's a beautiful park area in the median. That's not what I would put at the front door as you drive in. There's other places that the city owns land. You're going to dig there to put a whole bunch of utilities in. You can dig up the mall parking lot and fix the drainage. I mean, you're already going to be doing dirt work if you do it in Gore. You know, I think the challenge is there's always a right thing to do. There's always an easy thing to do. Sometimes right is easy. Sometimes right isn't easy. But we got to figure out the right thing to do. And I just don't think Gore's it.
All right. Thank you for coming. Scott?
Scott Shepard, 2509 Southwest B Avenue. I want to thank you all for your time. I've used enough of it already, I think, in speaking with you privately and echoing my concerns. I believe this is a generational decision. It's not something I take lightly, and that's why I came down here to speak with you all today. I have several points I'd like to make. The first being that just because federal funds are available doesn't mean that we should rush and put this bus station wherever makes it convenient, okay? Maybe we don't need to build a grandiose station and use all the money that's available. Maybe we need to build something smaller and take our time and put it in the right place, okay? And again, I'm 100% in favor of a bus station. I think it is needed, but I just don't think it's the right location. The other thing that I'd like to say is that despite the fact that there are 95% of the people that ride the bus are great, upstanding citizens, it's naive to think that a bus station and transfer station doesn't come with its own problems, okay? No matter how it's built, no matter how well it looks and it's designed and things like that, there will be problems such as crime, vagrancy, a deterioration of facilities, okay? All things that we don't want to make a focal point of our city. The next thing I'd like to say is that no matter where the bus station is located, there will always or should always be several routes that go from the transfer center to downtown. So people will not have to walk from this transfer station to downtown. Those buses should be available. I'd like to give you all a little history. The Gore Median Park has been in place almost as long as Lawton. In 1904, it was established as a fire break. I found this tidbit from my good friend Roger Cannon at the Lawton Public Library, and it was established in 1904. And that's a long time to have something there that we are going to replace so lightly over 2 or 3 city council meetings. It's a beautiful place. Once you replace green space, you can't get it back, okay? It's a concrete jungle at that point, and I have serious concerns just throwing that out the window. I feel like there are other locations that could be developed. I think the mall along C Avenue is a great idea. That land is also city-owned. It should be looked at seriously. I know Fista is right there, but the buses could be staged along C Avenue, and the buildings could be built in a parking lot there, and there's plenty of room to build a transfer center there, and plenty of length to line the buses up so that there's not any traffic congestion issues. There's space further along Gore Avenue that's already concrete, like 13th and 14th in Gore, okay? It's not city-owned, but at least it's not green space. And then I also think that the area down on Railroad should be looked at again. I know that there are some concerns by some citizens, but I don't think there's as many concerns as there are with this median here. And the last thing I'd like to say, and just close it with, is that without exception, every citizen that I've talked to is opposed to placing the transfer center in the median. I think they all are in agreement that we need one, but every single one of them feels like that it needs to be somewhere else. So a vote against or vote for putting it in the median is a vote against your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Is there anybody else that would like to come and speak on this matter? I want to wait a few seconds. I want to make sure everybody's had the opportunity. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, do you wish to have any further comments? We'll start with Ward 1. Ward 2.
Yeah, I'd just like to say there's a couple of misconceptions I think people brought up. One, the wash basin and the workstation will not be at the Gore site. It's simply a site for people to transfer from one bus to another and to stay warm or cold, whatever. There will be no maintenance or anything being done at that site. 2, again, I just wanted to reiterate, it's not going to be any extra traffic. So we're not adding any routes. We're taking a route away. So we need it. I don't disagree with the mayor that, maybe we need to take some more time here, and hopefully we can come up with some better conceptual ideas that people can look at and see. But we're not talking about building a porta potty in the middle of Gore. We're talking about building something nice that we can be proud of, that would look nice.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez. Mr. Byrd.
I'm just glad I'm not going to be here. I've had enough. 15 years is enough. I think everybody has a fair point. Can we find another spot? Probably. Is Gore perfect? No. I've said that in the beginning. Is it? There's just so many things to consider, and seems like every single location that we have found, and we're on location number 3 or 4 at this point, has had issues. There's some sort of issue. There's some business person that doesn't like it. There's some group that doesn't like that one. There's some group that doesn't like that one. I can't imagine Fista ever wanting to sell or give away any of the parking lot or any of that property around the mall, because that's where Fista is. So I had a big part in that, and I guarantee you they're going to throw a fit if you ask them to skip part of that mall up, because that's going to be Fista. You can be assured of that. My only last thing I'm going to say is I wish you all the best in trying to make this decision. It's not going to be easy. And there are other locations, even on 2nd Street, that I think you could look at. But we were told by other people along the way that 2nd Street wasn't a great location to have a spot. So there is another location that we've discussed before. So there are other locations. And again, I'm all for green space. So if we can find something better in a better location, I'm in. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Fortenbaugh.
There probably is better locations, and I think we should continue to look. But one of the things that frustrates me, we have a system here with staff and committees, and should be a flow of information everywhere. And we tend to not use that system effectively. So we're sitting up here, we don't know, 8 months goes by, a whole lot of planning goes on, and then we're presented with an idea, oh, let's do this. If we had just been brought in earlier, we could have discussed a lot of issues that may come up. This process could have gone a whole lot faster if we just used the system that we have.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Warren. Okay, final comment, and we'll move on. I've had a lot of phone calls. The only thing that I've had more phone calls on was trash. And I had only one that was positive, and none of them used the term "those people," but every one of them had concerns about traffic. So we do have a traffic study we're working on. I hope everybody got that. So that will be addressed through that study. I would presume that is the goal. Now, this is not an action item by order of the city attorney, so we'll move on to item 3, which is still in play. Consider authorizing the issuance of a request for qualifications from professional architect engineering firms to provide conceptual designs, preliminary engineering, final engineering, and construction management for the proposed transit center, maintenance, and administration facilities. The reason I think this is still in play is I think it's perfectly legitimate to go ahead and get your architect lined up. You don't need a location to get your architect lined up, do you?
Yes, we do. We can't, there's no point to having this, and this is the issue, is that, and to kind of, and I apologize, but to kind of go to your point, the committees that we've had actually over the last 3 or 4 years have been comprised of council members. So we have involved everyone in this process, and I understand.
Okay, wait just a minute.
But
that's not what we're talking about.
No,
We're
I
talking about
understand,
the
but
architect.
the
We have to
architect,
stick with the agenda.
The architect in question, we do actually need to have a location, because in order for them to evaluate and look at a location, there would be no point.
Okay, if you don't want us to consider it, we'll move on. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Hold on just a minute.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we table this item
Till when?
until whenever you decide you want it back, because I'm not going to be here.
Okay, table, this item is motion is to table as needed. Second? And we have a second. Discussion or debate. Please vote. Is that new? No. And the motion to table carries 7-0. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Chapman? Yes. Burke? Yes. Fortenbaugh? Yes. Johnson? Yes. Warren? Yes. Hankins? Yes. Harris?
We stand adjourned. Now I will open the special meeting of the Lawton Water Authority. Please call the roll.
Burke?
Yeah, here.
Fortenbaugh?